There once was a woman named Eleanor. Her hair was as white as freshly fallen snow, and her hands held the stories of many decades. She lived in a quiet home filled with memories, some sweet, some heavy. Eleanor had seen the world change in countless ways, but she felt that her own heart had remained stubbornly the same. She attended a gathering for senior citizens one afternoon, not out of excitement, but out of a simple routine. The days often felt long, and any small distraction was a welcome change from the silence of her own thoughts. She found a seat in the back, hoping to remain unnoticed, a small figure in a room of familiar faces. The speaker for the day was a kind-faced man who spoke about new beginnings. He shared a message of hope, talking about how a person could be born again, no matter their age. Eleanor listened, but a deep sadness settled over her. His words were like rain falling on a stone, unable to soak in. She thought of her past, the mistakes she had made, and the chances she had missed. To her, the idea of starting over felt like a story for the young, a ship that had sailed long ago, leaving her stranded on the shore of her regrets. The weight of her years felt like an anchor, holding her fast to who she had always been. As the speaker's voice filled the room, Eleanor's face grew downcast. Every word of hope seemed to highlight her own feeling of hopelessness. She saw others nodding, their faces bright with understanding, but her own heart felt cold. It was as if she were looking at a beautiful feast through a locked window, able to see the joy, but unable to partake. The years had taught her to be realistic, and her reality felt bleak. The opportunity for a new life, a new heart, seemed to belong to a chapter of life she had never opened, and now the book was nearly finished. She believed the time for such profound change had passed her by. The message concluded and people began to mingle, their chatter filling the air. Eleanor remained in her chair, lost in her own somber world. She felt too old for new songs, too tired for new journeys. The idea of a fresh start was a beautiful thought, but for her it was just that, a thought, distant and unattainable. She had lived her life, and this was the person she had become. The past was a long, winding road behind her, and she felt she had no choice but to walk the final steps on that same path, carrying the same burdens she had carried for so long. She saw no other way forward. After the talk, everyone gathered for tea and biscuits. The warm aroma filled the room, a comforting scent that usually brought a small measure of peace. The speaker, a man with gentle eyes, noticed Eleanor sitting by herself. He saw the shadow of sadness that lingered on her face and felt a gentle nudge to go and speak with her. He walked over with 2 cups of tea, offering one to her with a warm smile. "I hope my words didn't trouble you," he began softly, his voice full of genuine care. "I saw you listening so intently, and I wondered what was on your mind." Eleanor was surprised by his kindness. She had expected to be left alone with her thoughts. She took the cup, her hands trembling slightly as she held the warm porcelain. For a moment she considered offering a polite, simple answer, but something in his compassionate gaze made her feel safe enough to share the truth. "No, your words were beautiful," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "But I fear they were not for me. I have lived a long time. I think it is a bit late for me to change now." Her confession hung in the air, a fragile admission of a long-held belief. The speaker listened without interruption, allowing her the space to voice her deepest fear. He did not rush to correct her or offer a quick solution. He simply nodded, showing that he understood the weight of her feelings. He knew that a heart heavy with decades of regret could not be lightened with a few simple words. It needed more than just a phrase. It needed a truth that could gently push back against the tide of despair. He waited a moment, letting the silence honor her vulnerability, before he spoke again, his tone filled with a quiet, certain hope. "Is it ever too late to accept a gift?" he asked gently. "Imagine a king offers you a treasure. Does it matter if you are young or old when you say yes? The gift is still just as precious." He then looked directly into her eyes and said, "I believe it is far better to be late than to never arrive at all." Those simple words, "better late than never," struck a chord deep within Eleanor's heart. It was a phrase she had heard many times, but in that moment it felt new and full of profound meaning, a key turning in a long-rusted lock. The phrase echoed in Eleanor's mind, "better late than never." It was so simple, yet it held the power to challenge the fortress of doubt she had built around her heart for years. She had always thought of her age as a barrier, a final wall that could not be scaled. But now, she saw it differently. Perhaps her age was not a barrier, but simply a number. Perhaps the invitation to a new life did not have an expiration date printed in fine print at the bottom. The warmth from the teacup seemed to spread through her, a small spark of hope in a place that had been cold for so long. She looked at the speaker, a flicker of light returning to her eyes. The idea that she could become a babe in Christ, as he had said, even with her snowy hair and wrinkled skin, was revolutionary. It meant that God's grace wasn't just for the young and promising, but also for the old and weary. It was for those who felt they were at the end of their rope, with nothing left to offer. The possibility began to dawn on her that her story was not yet over. There might still be a beautiful, unwritten chapter waiting for her, a final chapter filled not with regret, but with grace. Together, right there amidst the quiet clinking of teacups, they bowed their heads. The speaker prayed a simple prayer, and Eleanor repeated the words, her voice gaining strength with each one. It was not a grand ceremony with bells and whistles. It was a quiet, humble moment between a soul seeking hope and a God who gives it freely. In that moment, Eleanor felt a lifetime of burdens begin to lift from her shoulders. It was as if a heavy cloak she had been wearing for decades was gently taken from her, and she could finally stand up straight and breathe freely again. A genuine smile, bright and unrestrained, spread across Eleanor's face. The other people in the room may have only seen an old woman having a conversation, but something monumental had occurred. She had arrived late, in the 11th hour of her life, but she had arrived. She had accepted the gift. Her journey was a powerful reminder that God's arms are always open, waiting patiently. He doesn't look at the calendar or the clock. He looks at the heart, and he welcomes home every child who turns toward him, no matter how long they have been away. Eleanor's story teaches us a beautiful and urgent truth. It is never, ever too late to change. It is never too late to turn your life around, to seek forgiveness, or to start a new journey of faith. God's grace does not diminish with time. His invitation is not limited by our age or our past mistakes. Whether you are 16 or 96, the door to a new beginning is open to you. Your past does not have to write your future. The hope that Eleanor found is available to every single one of us right here, right now, in this very moment. However, her story also comes with a gentle warning. While it is true that it is never too late, we must also understand that waiting is a risk. We are not promised tomorrow. As one wise person said, don't wait to be saved until the 11th hour, you might die at 10:30. Waiting to make a change is like delaying a trip to the doctor when you feel unwell. The opportunity for healing is there, but the longer you wait, the greater the risk becomes. The best time to accept a gift of love and hope is always the moment it is offered. Do not let the feeling that you are too old, too broken, or too far gone stop you. These are just whispers of doubt that keep you from the happiness that awaits. Think of your life as a book. Perhaps you are not proud of some of the chapters that have been written, but today, you hold the pen. You can choose to start a new chapter, one filled with hope, purpose, and peace. You do not have to let the story end the way it began. You have the power to choose a different ending, starting with the very next sentence. So, I encourage you today, no matter who you are or where you have been, to take one small step. Reach out, say a prayer, talk to a friend, read a verse of hope. Do not put it off until tomorrow or next year. The invitation to a better, more grace-filled life is for you, and it is for today. Just like Eleanor, you might find that the most beautiful part of your journey is the one you are about to begin. Accept the gift. It is better to start late than to never start at all. Your new beginning is waiting,